on. Okay, here we go. Okay, thank you very much for both being on. And I'm going to start by asking you to introduce yourselves, just to have the names and the pronouncers on tape. And so start whoever wants to go first.
Sure, I'm Yue Shu.
Okay.
And I'm Julie Krafchick.
Okay, and you two are tell me about the hosts and, if you give that line.
Oh, and we're the co-hosts of the Dateable podcast and co-authors of the book How to Be Dateable.
So you all are a team.
We are 10 years strong.
We are we're life partners too.
We are.
We love life partners. As we talk about on Dating While Gray, they need not be romantic connections to be valuable for our health and well-being. So that's great. So I'm eager to share with the Dating While Gray audience, for a lack of a better term, younger generations. Perspective on dating. But first, I want to talk about your friendship origin story and how it led to your podcast.
Yeah. I mean, we met when Yue actually moved to San Francisco, and ironically, we met through a matchmaker, but not in the way that you would assume.
No.
We were both friends with a friend that was a matchmaker, and at the time I had a startup that was connecting people in real life over brunch. It wasn't romantic, but just more in general. So I met up with her to understand her matchmaking process. Yue and her were connected through the dating scene in SoCal, and then when Yue came up here, the two of us met, and we just couldn't stop talking about dating. And eventually that led to us being in a bar one night and being like, we should record this and do a podcast, because we were confused ourselves and just wanted to figure it out.
Yeah. Yue, do you have anything to add?
We joke that we are the most successful match she's ever made. The matchmaker, because it's been so long.
Yeah. And Steve, I want to apologize off camera. I hear we have snow going on. And so I thought I was like, okay, thank goodness there won't be any leaf blowing going on. No, there's shoveling going on. Never a dull moment around here. Okay. So, and if you don't mind me asking, or if you don't want to reveal, you don't need to, but may I ask how old each of you is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 44.
And I'm 41.
Okay. So we're talking, I'm sorry, what is that? That's not Gen X. Is that?
We're elders. We're elder millennials.
Elder millennials. So isn't that fun being called an elder millennial?
I'm actually right at the cusp. So I like to say I'm the last Gen X and the first millennial.
Well, I'm a boomer, but I am a young boomer. Younger.
You're a baby boomer. You're an actual baby boomer.
A baby of the boomers. Yeah.
Baby of the boomers.
So I'm someone who got married very young. I was not even 23, and I stayed married for almost 30 years. And then experienced what researchers have come to call gray divorce. And so I was coming at dating basically for the first time at age 55. And I didn't have much experience it within the first place, so I thought it was really hard. But after reading your book, I think now that it wasn't necessarily my age that makes dating hard. Is dating hard?
Yes. I think everyone tends to go to their own circumstance of why dating is hard, but universally there's stats that dating is harder than ever before. Pew Research has come out with studies around how, in the last 10 years, dating has never been this difficult, and 50% of people are giving up or feeling like it's not worth dating or even pursuing a romantic relationship.
Yeah. Yue, would you like to add to that?
Well, I mean, if you just look at longevity in general, as our lifespan grows longer and longer, we're thinking about relationships in a different way. I mean, back in the day, people thought about later in life, once they get to 50, they thought about, okay, well, this relationship, great, we did it. Let's just think about how we plan for, the end. But now it's like, now we're looking at a phase 2, a second chapter, or even a third chapter. Right. And so when you're looking at relationships that evolve with you throughout these chapters, you're going to think a lot harder about who you choose to marry and date.
Yeah, I remember when I was first looking at the gray divorce statistics, and I ran into some studies, and they were like, "Oh no, the divorce rate, it's everybody's fine." And I looked, and they were considering they didn't look past couples who have been married longer than 15 years, and I was like, "Okay, you guys are missing a huge, you know." population of people. I mean, I was married for almost 30. And so you're right. It used to be if you were married for a certain number of years, or if you reached a certain age, okay, forget it. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Or,
Yeah.
this is it. This is my relationship history. I don't have to think about changing it or what might happen if it does change.
Right. And the thing is, we can obviously never predict the future and predict if we're going to get divorced. But I think one of the maybe silver linings in the dating world that we're in today is that, people are a lot more intentional, looking for partnership, really focused on self-growth and development. We're a therapy generation, and I think a lot of that is actually a positive to really building a sustainable long-term relationship. That being said, finding the right person and the right relationship is maybe a more difficult challenge, and you would think, like, with dating apps and all the resources we have, it would be easier, but in a lot of ways it's harder because of all the choice, the options, the overwhelming, you can want a relationship, or you can just be there for a hookup or something casual. Like, it's not assumed anymore that everyone's there for the same reasons.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Why is dating hard?
I'm actually curious to hear from you, Laura. Why did you find dating hard? What was it? What was the hard part for you?
Well, it's funny because I'm now 10 years, almost 10 years single. So it's a lot longer living as single than when I first got out. I mean, I was, coupled up my entire adult life. And so I thought it was hard because, so what I feel like now is I think it was hard because I was basically thinking, okay, you find someone, you're attracted to them, you fall in love and you get married, the end. I was basically thinking at the time, which I didn't realize at the time, I'm going to just replicate what I had before. It worked before. Why doesn't it work again? However, how many of us, of my generation anyway, really thought about that person that we married in the first place? Right. I mean, you developed a crush in high school or college, or at the workplace, and it was like, yeah, it seemed like the natural thing to do. You got married, but now it does feel like there are more options. And okay, I'm not the one supposed to be talking. You all are supposed to be the one talking.
Well, I think you actually narrowed in on a big piece of it. Is we feel like there's this expectation of love on demand, which is what you described, that you just meet someone and boom, you're in love and you find, you're happily ever after. And for people that, go on a date and don't see that spark immediately, it can feel jarring and like it's not the right person. And a lot of the way, like, our culture, dating culture, and a lot of this has been ingrained for years. This isn't all based on modern dating. Some of it's amplified with technology and the way dating works today. But a lot of this stems from a lot of deep-rooted, like, pieces of the way our society was told us that love worked. And
Right.
a lot of that's trapping us. Like, it's getting in our way of our expectations or out of line with what reality is.
Right. Steve, I do want to ask that I heard a weird sound when she said jarring. Did you hear that too? And does she need to repeat that line? Okay, good. Did you all hear it? Did you all hear it? Oh, maybe
I
it's
can
just-
say it again, though, if it's helpful. I don't even remember what I said, but
Okay, we have tools. I trust the expert. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so yeah, so I'm also okay. This is one thing I really wanted to ask you all. So because I think you're in an interesting part of our generation in that, early 40s. Not that people younger are not grown-ups, but you're clearly a grown-up once you hit your 40s.
Are
you?
you?
Know what I mean?
Are you?
Well, I feel like when I say a grown-up, I should edit myself. We have, I often tell my daughter, who's 30, I said, it's not that I'm smarter than you. I just have perspective from living a longer life. And so I can be more reflective. And so I would say the same thing when you're in your 40s. You definitely have more perspective than you had when you were in your 20s and even your 30s. Right?
Absolutely.
Right. So do you think that people, okay, think about, I guess, your evolution of the love search. Do people actually want the same things generally that we used to want? I mean, do we want to find the one, fall in love, get married, and, live happily ever after?
I think this is actually related to your previous question, is why is dating so hard right now? It's because we're trying to find what is it that we want. And we find, even in our book, as we have a whole chapter about gaining clarity, because most people don't actually know what they want. And if you speak to anybody who's on their second time around, maybe divorce or their spouse had passed away, you ask them what they're looking for this time around, they're like, you know what? The first time I felt like I did it for someone else. And this time I'm doing it for myself. And I need to figure out what that is.
And even the people that say, I want a relationship, I want a partner, I want the happily ever after in marriage, we also encourage you to say, what is it that you actually want in more present terms? How do we get more clear of like what that relationship looks like and partner to you? Because just the generic future, it's hard to really zone in when you meet someone and you're in a relationship to know if it's right for you that way. So actually removing that, we call it our dating North Star. And the idea is that you combine in our book, we walk people through how to do this, but you combine your dating why, like why am I dating right now, and try to get those words out of your vocabulary to even describe it. And then what are your core needs in a relationship? And then when you combine that, it can make it a lot more evident when you meet someone great.
Okay. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think just gaining that clarity is the biggest piece of information people can have. And what we found when going through this exercise with most people is the bottom line is everyone's still looking for connection. Maybe it's not a relationship, maybe it's not marriage, maybe it's not something long term, but most people want to date because they still want to have this very human experience of connecting with someone else.
Yes. No, I always say, I mean, what do I know? I'm no expert, but I like to say, go for, if you try to think of it as I'm just going to meet somebody, maybe I'll meet somebody, they may become a romantic partner, they may become a friend, they may just be, 3 hours of my life, but to think of it as forming connections, which we all know are so important.
Totally.
Just for mental health and general well-being.
I think that actually is one of the biggest problems in our dating culture today, and why people feel so discouraged, because there is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure with, I'm a big proponent of dating apps. I met my fiance on a dating app. I'm here to say they work, but at the same time, the expectation that each person is going to be like your forever person when you show up. Like, we hear of daters that we interact with that are looking at their profiles and saying, like, is this someone I could see myself with? The reality is you're never going to know until you meet them. And even then, on the first date, you're never going to know. It's more about like, how do we change our mentality to just doing a meet and greet and meeting someone and seeing where it could go. It just alleviates a pressure that's really just wearing at our mental health and not making dating enjoyable in the slightest.
Yeah. So speaking of dating apps or online dating, of course, we all know it's potentially expanded our pool of partners. But some might say those are not necessarily, it's not necessarily progress if those connections aren't authentic ones. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Authentic connections can happen anywhere. And we truly feel like dating apps are there to facilitate the expansion of your network. That is it. Like, if you walked into a bar and you told the bartender, please introduce me to every single person that walks in here that lives within this 5-mile radius, would you get mad at the bartender at the end of the night if you didn't find the love of your life? No, you probably thank your bartender for introducing you
Right.
to everybody that came in. Dating apps facilitate the exact same thing. They do not guarantee authentic connections, but they're there to introduce you so you increase your chances of having a connection with someone.
Right. Okay. Now I just have to say, we might get mad if we paid that bartender to find us a connection.
Well, here's this thing. The bartender won't take your money for that. They'll take your money for the drinks, though, because their goal is to get you
Right.
to stay at the bar for as long as possible. That's what dating apps do. They want you to stay on the dating apps. So let's just follow the money here. The bartender's not like, I mean, I don't want you to make any connections. I just want you to have a good time, and I want to keep you feeding you drinks.
Yeah.
But they're also giving you the environment too, on maybe a more positive note of what they're providing, right? Is like at the end of the day, I think it's just our expectation of love on demand, that we're just, expecting that this dating app is gonna like serve us up this perfect partner on a silver platter. And we see this all the time, like people getting frustrated when they're not getting matched with good people, quote unquote, good people to them. It's like the dating app thinks I'm unattractive. And it's like, we're putting way too much power on the dating app. It's just, again, a way to meet more people.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so let me think. Okay, so one thing that I believe many older daters have that's a benefit to them is that we're not necessarily always looking to repeat the roles we filled in previous relationships. So presumably we have more money than we had when we were younger. We might have the kids that we wanted to have when we were younger. We might have our own home, a career. So we might not want to get married in order to, build a family or, build our net worth. But does this kind of non-traditional thinking make it harder for us? And are more younger daters embracing this non-traditional thinking?
This is such a beautiful way to go about dating, because you brought up this word too. You have the benefit of reflection. You're able to reflect on the experiences you've had. In earlier dating, you're reactive. You are the one that's kind of chasing this elusive idea of what a relationship should be. And now you have the time to reflect on your experiences. And one thing that I think newer generation of daters really understand that I love is this word of space. Like giving yourself the space to think about what you want and giving your partner the space to think about what they want. So this way of thinking actually is not focused on the end goal, which is the relationship or the marriage, like you were saying. You're focused on, what can I learn the most from this experience? How can I expand the most from this relationship, from this connection? Because I don't need to be tied to that outcome at all. I just want to be the best version of myself.
We actually, I'm thinking of a story of a dater in our network that got engaged in her 50s and decided that, it actually felt like a lot of pressure and not the right move to combine everything. And once they decided, like, we're going to be together, but still maintain our own residences and live separately and do our thing, the pressure just alleviated and they could go back to enjoying each other for the connection they had. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And it's just a testament to like why different times of your life might call for different things. You had a question earlier too, though. Are you seeing this with younger generations? And the answer is yes. We're seeing that people aren't just following a specific mold. And that actually is what makes dating hard because, without a map, sometimes you get lost and you're confused. But then at the same time, it also makes it beautiful that you don't have to follow this cookie cutter way of being and all the shoulds if that isn't authentic to you and what you truly want.
Yeah. Do you guys have thoughts about The Bachelor?
Too many thoughts about The Bachelor. We actually have a whole section about the Bachelor vortex in our book, which is like this idea, of trying to advance to the next round, of trying to win what feels like a pageant. And it works great for a reality TV show. It certainly does not pan out as an authentic connection.
I'm
Right.
curious, Laura, like, is there a specific area that you are like, this is just not it? Or what's your take on The Bachelor?
Oh, I think it's all terrible. Yes, and they had the Golden
Yep.
Bachelor, and that was the first time I had ever watched The Bachelor, any kind of
Oh,
Bachelor franchise. And silly me thought because they were older people that it was going to be more reality than game show. And boy, was I wrong. So,
You didn't love the Don't Stop Believing dance state.
no.
Yeah.
We've known each other for 3 months. Let's get
Yeah.
married on TV. And then, but here, it's interesting because, of course, okay, I'm not a fan of Gary's, Golden Bachelor
Okay.
Gary. And I don't know if it was his fault or not because he was presented as not who he really is.
Right.
And I don't know if it was the producers and he went along with it or whatever. But I think it could have been a good show if even if they had presented him as who he was. But it's interesting because when they broke up, when he and Teresa got a divorce, I thought, okay, Gary, he was just playing her all along. They got married on TV just to get the money and the stuff, and they're under contract or whatever. But then a few months ago, Teresa came out and said that Gary wanted to have a relationship where they spent time in, either a live apart together relationship or sometime in his house and sometime at her house. And she didn't want that. She wanted them to buy a house together that they lived in together full time, that they could decorate. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Maybe I need to back off a little bit from my negative thoughts about Gary because Teresa was, yeah.
The thing is, both of them are right. Neither of them is wrong for wanting what they want. What
Correct.
bothers me, though, and of course some of this is TV, did they ever have these conversations? This could have all
Right.
been solved. We have in our book the perfect partner equation, and figuring out who is right for you. It comes down to the foundation, the fundamentals of this person, and then the feelings you have around them, and then the future. Are you aligned? And it sounds like they were in their feelings. Maybe they even got to like, oh, this person has this quality that's important to me in a partner. But it feels like they really missed that future part. And that doesn't mean you need to have like your whole future like laid out ahead of time as you're dating. But if you have areas that you're just not willing to budge on in this way, it sounds like Teresa was just a lot more traditional and wanting someone that was really integrated in her life, and Gary was unable to do that, and that would have been good info to know ahead of time.
I also think it would have made for good TV, frankly.
Yeah.
Been much more real, and we could all relate. So,
But the Bachelor franchise is trying to sell us on the idea of love. They're not trying to sell us on the idea of relationships.
True.
So I actually think The Bachelor does a very good job at helping people believe in love again, because I truly believe these people do fall in love. Why? Because falling in love is the easy part. If your assignment, if your assignment is to go on TV, you have one option, and your assignment is to fall in love with this person, yeah, you're going to find all the qualities about this person that makes them lovable, and you're most likely going to fall in love with them because you don't have finances to talk about, your family, your jobs, anything else that's real world. So, of course, you're going to fall in love. But I think what we're seeing from The Bachelor, I hope people understand this, falling in love is easy. Staying in love is not easy because that's a choice. And finding someone to do life with you is a much more meaningful way of looking at a partner than just being like, well, we're in love.
yeah, I love that expression, do life with. I really like that. Did you make that up, UA?
No, no. I wish we could take credit, but we've heard it all.
I'm going to steal it. Sorry. I'm going to
Love it.
because I've
Steal
never
away.
heard it.
Steal away.
No, but
I
it's
do
interesting.
think.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
I
Go
do
ahead,
think,
Julie.
though, there is a toxic element to The Bachelor, though, of, the dating process. It actually ties to what we call the validation trap, is that it almost like doesn't matter if you even like this person, but you're so caught up in your own self-worth and moving on and getting that next date. And if the person doesn't want the next date, what does this mean about me? And I feel like that does, even though we know The Bachelor is fantasy, it does trickle in a little into our dating lives of feeling like, I'm a loser loser if I don't get the next date. And it's like, who are you losing against? Like,
Right.
ultimately, you just want someone that's right for you. And we really have to remove ourselves from this way of thinking that has been so ingrained in dating culture.
Yeah. I like to say that The Bachelor focuses so much on the process, which they call a journey.
Right.
But that it ends right there. Okay.
Yeah.
And which we all know. It's sort of like focusing so much on the wedding that you lose sight of, there's a marriage.
Right.
That
Yes.
follows. And so, yeah. But, I think it's beautiful that you think they actually fall in love.
I do.
I think it's lust.
The funny part is she's not even the dreamer of the two of us, and I have a much more cynical take on The Bachelor.
Did you
I've been
watch
to-
the Golden?
I've been
Did
to
you watch
summer
the Golden
camp.
Bachelor?
I did. Yeah, we've all been to summer camp where you're like, you're going to fall in love because you have limited time, there's limited options, and you have nothing else to do but to like find your crush and fall in love with them. I believe
Yes. Then you write that letter. Summer has ended, and so have we.
it. Yes. What was your name again?
Yeah, exactly. I remember talking through with my mom, and we were joking around, but I think she was serious. It was like, summer has ended, and so have we. Absence makes the heart grow fonder for someone else.
What a nice breakup. People don't do that
Wow.
anymore. They just ghost.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's see. We touched on this a little bit before, and talking about, I think in some ways, I wonder if it's okay, as long as you make your intentions clear, instead of thinking as dating as a means to an end, and that end is, finding a romantic partner. Isn't it okay to think of dating as simply another activity? Like, I play pickleball, I jog, I like to read, and I like to date.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm mixed on this. Like, on some ways, I see what you're saying, but then the reality is there's another human involved in it. It's a little different than like going to the pickleball court. I don't know. I think, yes, if you make your intentions clear, but I don't know how I would feel personally if someone's just like, it's an activity for me. But again, it gives you into that future part, like, what is this person ultimately here looking for? But if that isn't, like, if you ultimately do want a connection with them, maybe it's phrasing it in a way of like, I do enjoy meeting new people, like, what is it, the benefits of the activity, but not make it feel like they're kind of like a slot for you.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, Julie, actually. Well, I'm just thinking about this video I saw today, which is funny because it's very related to this. This girl posted a montage of all her activities and hobbies in 2024 and said, the dating scene was so hard, I just picked up a bunch of hobbies. And I thought, there's no opposite of that. No one's like, hobbies are so hard, I just went on a bunch of dates. Right? Because dating is kind of this reciprocal experience. Hobbies, there's no feedback. You can go play pickleball, and if you don't like it, you can leave, and nobody gets their feelings hurt. But dating, there are feelings involved, so it is not the easier thing. It's not an activity you can just do without consequences. And I think that's why
Right.
maybe there's no equivalent of that to an activity.
Okay.
We have heard of people, though, like moving to a new city and just like diving into the apps because they don't know anyone, they don't have anything to do. And we've both been on receiving ends of that. And I don't know if you have, Laura, ever, but it kind of doesn't feel great when it feels like you're just like here to be someone's tour guide. So I think what we always encourage people, if they're going to make that big life change, like make dating a part of your life, but not the entire life. Build up that community and network outside of dates and hobbies and interests, and then date at the same time. It's not like you can't do it immediately, but it shouldn't be your source of entertainment and companionship.
Okay. So I would like to know if you have any, like a tip or two that would particularly resonate with daters 50 and older.
I think the one that we've been talking about a lot recently is scare them away. Don't be afraid to scare away the wrong people.
Okay. Skip. Okay.
Yeah, scare them away. No walking
Shoot.
on eggshells. Yes, because we hear this from people who are dating again, coming out of long-term marriages and relationships. They're like, what are the new rules in dating? Can I say this? Like, can I still discuss politics on a first date? Do I still wait a few weeks ahead to be intimate. And we're just kind of like, there are really no rules in dating. The right person is going to appear for you in the right way. So if you're doing something that scares someone away, it's probably not the right person.
To piggyback off of that too is you actually don't need to be good at dating. And this should help people because I think we hear a lot from people that are 50 plus that are like, I have this relationship experience, but I've never dated before.
Yeah.
I don't know how to date. I don't know how to do it the way that I'm supposed to. And like Yue was saying there, it's all these like unspoken or even spoken rules of wait 3 days or text back at this timeline. And it's overwhelming and confusing. But the reality is that actually only brings us towards disconnection anyways. So we see the people that really thrive in dating are the people that have thrown out that all out the window. They're playing by their own rules. They're just ultimately being authentic and doing what they want and dating their way. And I hope that's like a sigh of relief to people that are newer to dating, that you actually don't need to learn all this, and the relational skills that you have learned in your past relationships or even marriages, of course, ones that didn't serve you, you don't need to bring those forward. But a lot of the ones that did, like that could actually be a great asset for you of how to relate to others and actually connect.
Yeah. I'm thinking about when I first started dating, someone gave me the advice, go on as many dates as you want or as you can because it's all practice.
Oh, God,
It's all practice. And I was like, practice for what? What am I practicing for? So, and I have to say, this person was basically on dating apps straight for 13 years.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's because the question is, do you want to get good at dating or do you want to find a relationship? And maybe if you're the person that wants to just date, then that actually is serving you, right? But if you're ultimately looking for something that's a little more connection oriented and a relationship, whether it's your forever person again, or even just like, someone that your go-to person that you do things with, I think throwing out some of those like myths and rules, and we hate dating as a numbers game where we actually say it's not. So yeah, again, like that's really our book, is unraveling a lot of the stuff that we've been told.
Yeah. Yue, would you like to say anything?
This is our hope for all of the listeners right now, is we really hope that you all don't sound like the newer daters who are like new to dating, who have the same complaints and observations about dating, because you all have experience and you all have knowledge and you are wise enough to skip through a lot of that BS. Yeah. So when we find someone who's like, oh my gosh, look at this profile, do you think this person is going to be my person, and like kind of analyzing every single line and every single photo, we see that with our 20-some-year-old daters. We hope we don't see that even with our 30-some-year-old daters, because why do you want to revert back to when you didn't have much experience? Start from experience.
Yeah, I remember my daughter and I, she lived with me for a short period of time, and we were both on the apps, different ones. And, but I remember she told me, oh, you're using way too many words. I'm like, aren't I supposed to be? She goes, if you're looking just to meet someone, just focus more on the pictures and less on the word. I'm like, okay, this goes against everything I have been taught. But it saved me some time anyway, because you sort of split over some of those words, right?
Well, there is, I think, another piece of the app dynamic. A lot of it is, I understand why people are so discouraged. Like if you're sending all these messages and crafting the perfect opening line, and then people aren't even replying to you, of course, let me say that again. People aren't even replying to you. Of course, that can be discouraging. Yeah. And a lot of times we see people aren't even talking to humans. They're just analyzing and talking to their group text about like if this person's attractive or not. So we do think there's a balance of, being your authentic self, but also recognizing the medium that you're at. So we like to say, like, look at it as you're just inviting someone to a house party. Spend no more than 30 seconds. We love this 30-second rule of like, we're not ones for rules, but for this one, we're like, keep 30 seconds. Don't overthink the profile. Don't overthink the text you're going to send. And then you'll even see if the person replies, and then the relationship can start.
That's a good, I like that, 30 seconds. So, Julie, you mentioned earlier that you are now engaged, but apparently you had a relationship previous. Tell me about what happened during the writing of the book. Am I correct on that?
I think that might be UA that you're
Oh,
mixing
UA.
up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was like, that thing, but
But
yeah.
Julie had a previous relationship that was that we reference in the book quite a bit too.
Okay. Excuse me. So, UA, tell me what happened, if you don't mind.
Oh, those previous relationships, they can really help you write a book. I,
Amen.
Amen, right? In the middle of writing the book, I did go through a major breakup from a 5-year relationship due to infidelity on his part. And
Oh, I'm sorry.
probably the best thing to have ever happened to me in such a weird way. It opened my eyes to what I want in dating and what I want in a partner. And ultimately, I know that I don't need to convince anybody to be with me. So there's no hanging on. There's no, that feeling of like, I need to make this work at all costs. It was like, okay, there's no alignment and he's not choosing me. I don't need to be part of that. And so it was a really liberating experience writing the book while going through this breakup. And the book was also a way for us to look at this voice of someone who's single, someone who is newly back in dating, or someone getting over a breakup, and how they would utilize some of these skills and frameworks too.
Yeah, I totally relate to what you're saying. At the same time, it took me a while before I realized that my divorce was a good thing. And I hate to call divorce good. So did you immediately, I mean, there had to have been some, or was there some, was it a slow unwinding of the 5 years, or, do you know what I'm saying? Wasn't it kind of shocking and jarring at first, or no?
Oh, very shocking and jarring at first. And I remember, I mean, Julie and I talk about this all the time. There is a little bit of pressure when you have a dating podcast and writing a dating book and your relationship fails. Yeah. There is there is a little uncertainty and uneasiness about that. And I had to really embrace that during the breakup and say, this is not a reflection of who I am and what I've learned. In fact, how I'm bouncing back from this breakup is exactly the proven way of why we're doing the work that we're doing and why we put out this book. And it really liberated me from this idea of like, I have to make something work for the long term. And so it was very jarring. It was devastating. I mean, it turned my world upside down for a while, but you know what? I knew I was going to come out better, and I did.
I think from someone observing, I mean, just how instrumental like a lot of this podcast and our learnings have been for you, and just how strong you were through it. I mean, I think a big piece of it was in the past, it was always like single is a layover to a relationship, and you really like embraced being single and like, what do I get to do right now because I'm single? And it also set you up for your current relationship where, as an outsider, I can just see like how much more just like, sharing your needs you are, or how much more you share your needs and just state what you want and need in a partnership, and how much more yourself you are. And I think that is a testament also of learning and coming out of this stronger.
Thank you,
And
Julie.
Julie, yeah, that's really sweet. Julie, you said you're engaged. Is this, so I guess I'm trying to figure out the timeline of, y'all started this podcast.
Yep.
What has been your relationship? What has been your relationship cycles with the years that you've been doing the podcast?
Oh, it's been a ride. It's been a cycle, that's for sure. I think UA and I have both been single at the same time. We've both been in relationships at the same time. One of us has been single. One of us has been in a relationship and flip-flopping. So we've seen it all over the last decade. And, when we first started the podcast, UA was new to San Francisco where we met. So you were like ready to date, ready to see what's out there. Mm-hmm. I was really recovering from my first major heartbreak at that time. Like I thought I met the one. it was kind of like what you were saying, Laura, at the beginning. It's like we just met and I just expected everything would work out and go smoothly because I fell in love. And it was a hard lesson to learn that sometimes love is not enough. And in this case, I truly still believe that this person did love me, but they just did not have the capacity to be in a relationship the way I needed. And, it continued. This was an on again, off again relationship for a couple years. I wish I could just say I left it at that point, but sometimes you need to go through that, and dating also in between that. And then actually, ultimately, in the pandemic, we gave it another final shot, me and this ex-partner. And we were like, okay, we're either doing this or we're not. And by then, I was a totally different person as well. Like, I was someone that I think before was kind of like walking on eggshells a little and not wanting to rock the boat. And now I was just like, look, like, again, scare them away. I'm going to say what I need and what I want. And if it doesn't work, then, like, I know that there's someone better out there for me, or someone that's a better fit for me. And ultimately it didn't work. And, probably it was still like maybe a year until I met my now fiance, and I met him over the pandemic. And, it felt like so different than any relationship had in the past, because I knew what I was looking for. I knew what my dating North Star was, and I was able to recognize a good thing early on when I met him.
And you met him over the dating app.
Yeah, on Hinge in the pandemic, which is a weird time to date, but we did it.
And you want to share how you met would you consider him a partner now, the person you're dating now?
Yes, it's been a little bit over a year. I like to revisit old connections. I think this is a pattern of mine. And this is someone who's been in my life for over 8 years. It was never a romantic thing. It was always in a professional context. But when I moved to LA, we ended up being about a mile apart, just coincidentally. So we picked back up that connection, but again, was a professional connection. And after the breakup happened, this is why I think it's so important to think about being single as not the layover, but it's like a new opportunity to reawaken myself. I fell in love with tennis. Tennis was my first relationship after the breakup. That's what I like to say. And tennis is what actually led me to a deeper connection with my now partner, because he started playing tennis as well. So we really bonded over that. And, now it's been a little bit over a year.
Oh, that's lovely. I love stories like that. And, you talk about revisiting. We've done episodes called Boomerang Love.
Yeah.
And a lot of older people, whether it's somebody
Totally.
that they used to date, or, somebody from their childhood. So I think that's great. And so that reminds me of the burned haystack method.
Oh, yes.
Where she's saying, okay, if you pass over somebody, burn to block so that you'll never, ever see them again. And I think it's an example of why that might not be a great idea, to totally cut somebody off that was in your life at one point, whether it's somebody you meet over a dating app or,
I feel like people come into our lives for a reason. And maybe it's not romantic, but I always think about every person that's in my life. How do I feel around them? And is that why I'm keeping them in my life? Yeah. And there have been connections in the past. Maybe it was just a fleeting friendship, or maybe it was just like a one-time meeting, but I left feeling so good about myself. So why not be more curious about those connections, even if they don't lead to something romantic? And I do believe at a certain point in our lives, we've met plenty of people who have potential to be our partners. we just don't choose to see them that same way. So or in that way. So I call this a stargazing theory, where stars are always in the sky, but you don't always see them because we're clouded by light pollution, or there's, we don't actually train our eyes to see them. It's the same thing with connections too. If you don't see people in that light, or you're not ready to see them in that light, they're not going to appear as a star for you.
Oh, a star for me. I love that.
Yue and I was just thinking about this. Yue and I went to dinner once. Do you remember this, Yue? And the table next to us was this adorable couple. And they were now married, but they were college sweethearts. They broke up. They got married to different people and then reunited. And it was just so endearing to hear that.
Yes, that's wonderful. Okay, so my next question was, do you think your dating days are over?
No, even though I'm engaged, I would say no because I don't think you should ever stop dating your partner. And to
Oh,
be
okay.
honest, when I have seen relationships that haven't worked out, marriages that have ended in divorce, a lot of time is that you abandoned what brought you together in the first place. So I think it's really important to keep that alive. And, that can obviously be different. Maybe I'm not like meeting new people all the time and going out in that realm, but I do like keeping this idea of the dating energy or the big dateable energy, we call it, alive even in a long term relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, your dating days are never over because dating is also about relating back to yourself. You don't have to be dating all kinds of new people. Like, we take ourselves out on dates all the time. We call them master dates, where you have to reconnect with yourself too and see you as the wonderful, dateable person that you are. We also go on friend dates. I actually asked my friend Emily out on a formal friend date the other day. She's like, "Ooh, this is kind of exciting. We're going to go to dinner and then we have a whole night planned." Because dating is the really fun, whimsical, magical part of this whole journey. So why would we ever lose that opportunity?
And
Yeah,
we
I think it's
forget about that.
I was going to say we need to open up our definition of dating too,
Yes.
to have it
Yes.
be less specific. And so I'm just assuming, Julie, because you're engaged, that means you're going to get married, a traditional relationship. Do you think you'll
Yeah.
live together 24/7? Have you talked about that?
I mean, we already live together, so I guess how do you define traditional? I mean, in the past, maybe that wouldn't be, but I think
Yeah.
one of the things that's worked really well for us is that we've kind of just eased into every next stage. Like before we moved in together, he was basically practically living at my place. And then when we moved in together, we kind of got out all of that stuff that you might encounter when you first move in together. And then, getting engaged, it feels like honestly, it didn't feel any different to me because of just the state our relationship was in.
And UA, do you mind sharing? Are you living with your partner?
No, and I don't really plan on living with him or us living together full time because he has kids and we have very different schedules and sometimes we have different interests throughout the week. And I think it's really worked out really nicely that we have intentional time with each other per week and then we have that time apart. And I can't say forever that it's going to be like this, but for right now, it's working out really well.
That's great. Okay, so here's my question, my last question. What else do we need to know?
What else do we need to know? Ooh.
The big, broad question.
I mean, I think what I would leave is like ultimately you're in control of your love life. I think we give way too much control and power to dating apps, to the person that didn't text us back. We let people like take over our emotions that really we don't even know. So ultimately, when you hopefully read our book, but we change the mentality of how we go into the dating world in the first place. Like for me, I think a big shift was when I really put my needs at the forefront. And like I mentioned, when I met my partner, just felt different. And there were people before that I was like, they're not prioritizing me. I feel like I'm like clawing for attention. And that isn't what I want. So it was letting those people go. And that was like a big shift that I don't think in the past I would have done. I had more of a scarcity mindset that like, oh, this person's great on paper or the chemistry is there. I can't lose them. And now again, it was that scare them away. Like if it's not the right person, then and they're not meeting my core needs, then there's someone else out there. And I'm so glad that shift happened because it just made me feel a lot more empowered. It did feel like rejection as it would in the past when someone wasn't able to meet my need. It was more of just, okay, I'm going to keep going and see who's next.
Yeah. UA, final words?
We just really hope that people don't give up on love because we are meant to do life with other people. We're social animals. So I think there are three huge benefits that a relationship can bring into someone's life. They can help us heal, they can expand our consciousness, and they can make ourselves to be the best versions of ourselves. So if we take away the relationship part and just go into every interaction with those 3 goals, imagine how much more fulfilling all of our lives would be. Every interaction, it's like, am I healing? Am I the best version of myself? And have I expanded my consciousness after this meeting?
Beautiful. Well, thank you both so much for being on the show. We're going to stop the recording. Steve's going to come up. He's going to make sure it's loaded before we actually disappear.